you know what goes on in there, and you know what they shield from us and keep the public from really knowing what's happening behind the bars. And so the
Absolutely.
more that we were getting leaked out here, and the more that we were putting out there, and with technology being so relevant inside of the system now, we were obtaining more. And so when we were putting it out there in the media and making it more visible as to what was going on, they were shutting us down. I mean, it got so deep to where they were shutting down my YouTube, they were shutting down my social media channels, because it was getting real. And so our 2-year
Wow.
campaign, it went forth. We pushed $50 million out of the state of Ohio. We got body cams on all of our COs, our POs, even all the way down
Nice.
to our juvenile system.
Nice.
Boom, it happened. But with that being said, what was the repercussions for that? What's the
Hmm.
backlash for that? And at the time, my husband was paying for that. Our loved ones was paying for that. They were retaliating against them with that. And it was like, okay, how do we still help them and not harm them? Because even though we were getting things, we were also creating harm in the same way, right? And so yes, we were coming, the women were coming for you, we're coming for our men, not just my husband, but we're coming from those uncles and those brothers and those husbands that need to be out here in the community, that need to be the example for these young men that are coming up. We got 10-year-old shooters out here, 10-year-olds
Yeah.
in our murder pods here in our county jails. You understand what I'm saying? So we
Mm.
need you all back out here on the streets to be those relevant, strong forces, not to just these people, but to the women. We don't want to take on both roles anymore, right? And they are
Absolutely.
incarcerating us at a higher level. It's at 800% now. So not only were they incarcerating you, but they're incarcerating us. They're incarcerating our children, right? So yes, we're coming to get you. So how do we do this? So I started on a quest, like, okay, you won't let me inside the prisons. I'm going to figure out how to keep, when they come out, how to keep them out, how to keep everybody home. How do we keep that family dynamic together? And
That's
one
right.
thing nobody was talking about was mental health. They were not talking
At
about
all.
happens when that man, that woman, that son, that daughter, when they come in the house. I'm not talking about reentry. That is the third step. I'm talking about that day when I go pick him up at that gate and he comes in this house.
Mm.
Nobody's talking about that. Nobody's talking about when he comes in here and he's not in that cell and he does not know how to sit down at the dinner table and adjust to that climate. Nobody's telling me what to do. Nobody's telling me, because I have isolated myself for a decade. I have lived alone for a decade. And now this person is in my climate, in my space. What am I supposed to do? Nobody's
Right.
telling me that, and I need to figure it out. And so, with that, I started doing the research and I started looking and I started asking questions, and nobody could tell me. I said, it's okay. I'll figure it out myself. And so, I found this thing called post-incarceration syndrome, and it was the only thing that made sense to me. The only thing. And there's a man by the name of Terrence Gorski and the Synapse Corporation out of Florida. It's the only people that were talking about it. So I began to research it, and he had been researching it. He was actually talking about substance abuse disorder and recidiv and why people who do drugs, why they keep recidivizing, and what post-incarceration syndrome is. And so I met a lady in one of my cohorts, Gail Muhammad, and her organization is Women Who Never Give Up. So we partnered together. We're partnering with the Synapse Corporation, and I've been doing a research study for 4 years with the University of Cincinnati School of Medicine.
Nice.
So what we've done is OPJL, Opportunities People's Justice Leader, is now the research arm of now I am SOAR 4031 Foundation. This is how much we've grown. And my whole focus is to help you, even though you're successful, even though we talk about reentry, I want to help you deal with those things that don't make sense to you still yet. The triggers that you have, the smell of something that is in your mind when you hear, like when people take our survey, they say, when I hear keys jingling to this day, it takes me back. Like when my husband first came home, every 30 minutes he was getting up, walking around this room, looking out. I'm like, what are you doing? Stop doing that. And it was count time. because count was still in his brain. And those are the things that we work with you to undo those habits so that you can be conducive and can, because you don't realize that these things are still intertwined in your brain and in your mind. And that's what we want to work on, because see, you're no longer incarcerated. And so because you're no longer incarcerated, we want to decarcerate your mind from all those things, even your family members. Like for me, for instance, I was speaking to a lady, one of our members the other day, and she's over in England. Her husband is here in the States, and she goes back and forth. And she said, Chastity, I can't stand the sound of Skype, because that's how they communicate. And when so that Skype thing rings, she said I get anxiety so bad when it rings and I hear it, even though he's home and I hear it. I have so much anxiety. I said, that's pics. That's what it is.
No
It's those
question.
things that trigger you that you don't even realize. She said, when I'm carrying the groceries, and she said, and I was carrying all the groceries, and I turned around and I was like, well, where is he at? And he was standing there like, I'm home now, right? I can help you. She said, I had to remember he's here. And so those are the things that we help you with. Those little minor things that you think don't matter, they do.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. Listen, this is a beautiful segue for this moment right here.
Okay, on the beat.
So this is a segment that Success After Lockdown created um for called cell therapy, and it deals with our mental health, because this is what we dealing with here. We dealing with something serious. And this is a serious topic that you're talking about, because I think that it never goes away.
Mm-hmm.
um this syndrome that's going on with those that's incarcerated and formerly incarcerated, as well as the families. I would take this a little bit deeper, but it doesn't have to be, because I think that we all suffer from some type of mental illness, one way or another. Um, and I would like to just say that you dead on point when you talking about these things, because to this day I've been home. I came home August 10th, 2020. You know, I've been home going on 4 years now, and it's like yesterday. It feels like yesterday. I know I've done a lot. I've accomplished a lot with myself. Um, just growing up out here, because prior to me being incarcerated, I left at 20 years old. They didn't have any of this internet. They didn't have phones. You know, we had a big handheld phone when I left that we stick into the light in the car. You know, so to have to come home to this, and to get myself acclimated in this and relationship. So me and my wife been together for uh 14 years now. We've been married for 12. And the relationship that's in prison, it definitely changes when you come home, because you don't you I've the men that just came out of this isolation for so long feel that they back isolated again. A lot of them feel like they isolated again, and they under corrections. They under CO, rules and regulations. And I get it too, because I know a lot of brothers that's formerly incarcerated, that's home, that left their wives, that they left each other, they got divorced,
Mm-hmm.
or they stopped, and I see that this is what it has to deal with. This is what it have to do with a lot of the mental health stress that those men are going through, as well as those women too.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of women don't realize it too, just like a lot of men don't. So what I mean is, they haven't prepared themselves for something like this, and it's understandable, right? I don't want to toot my horn, but I want to say that it's like, during my incarceration, I prepared for this moment. this moment in time today, I think that I know that I'm in the minority. There's not a lot of us that do the preparation that I did while incarcerated. What do I mean? We definitely don't have no therapist or anything like that. Like the prison system doesn't provide any. You can be in New York State prison for 27 years and 6 months and never see a sight.
Mhm.
so that shows you where they are with trying to help us,
Mhm.
transition back into society after
Mhm.
doing this isolated time for so long. So, I understand it all too well. But what I think I did, what I believe I did too, in my moment in time was educate myself to PICS, to post-traumatic stress disorder, to these symptoms that we see throughout the whole incarceration, throughout the population, as well as throughout society. And so that was something I did, was I chose to educate myself in that. And I also chose to be around a group of men that I know that, see, we created classes in New York State Prison. We created classes for the population. There was a very few men, 5 to 8 of us, that, went down to the school building, with the limited time that we had with each other. And we you know, created self-help therapeutic classes for each other. And, and creating these self-therapeutic classes, I begin to see those things that we're about to talk about now with mental health, with us going through these things. So I also stayed connected to those men that were going home.